Colombian former President Cesar Gaviria has been meeting with radical left-wing candidate Gustavo Petro in a situation that many people here in Colombia actually believe that it could represent an unexpected alliance ahead of the upcoming legislative and, of course, presidential election here on this country. Over the last few weeks, Cesar Gaviria has been praising Gustavo Petro and, of course, his party, his left-wing party, Pacto Histórico, claiming that a radical change is needed in the South American country following the numerous crises that Colombia has been dealing with over the last few years, especially in terms of economy and, of course, security as well. So it is an undeniable fact that this is a quite unexpected turn of events, given the fact that Petro and many other members of his party, Pacto Histórico, have been brutally criticizing Gaviria over the last few years. I mean, basically, like many other populist leaders or many other populist movements or many other populist political parties, Gustavo Petro and the Pacto Histórico have been creating this narrative that Colombia is essentially on the worst crisis in its history, which of course is a lie, because the statistics doesn't reveal that scenario whatsoever. However, Gustavo Petro and the Pacto Histórico have been selling this narrative consistently all over Colombia. And in addition to this narrative, of course, these types of narratives needs a villain. And in addition of Colombian former President Álvaro Uribe, one of the main villains of this narrative created by Petro and the Pacto Histórico have been the one of Cesar Gaviria. He's one of the main villains in this particular narrative in which Petro and the Pacto Histórico says that Colombia is currently living under a neoliberal pandemonium in which Cesar Gaviria is one of the main persons to blame, is one of the guiltiest persons of this reality. So it is important to take into consideration that if you're asking yourself, who is Cesar Gaviria? The truth is, Gaviria is actually one of the most famous presidents in Colombia's modern history, because we need to remember that he was the president under which Pablo Escobar was killed here in the city of Medellin. So Cesar Gaviria, for some people, was actually a person that managed to stop the bloody reign of Pablo Escobar. However, for many other people, he was a pretty soft president that allowed Escobar to do whatever he wanted, being the reason why, despite the fact that under his administration, Colombian authorities managed to kill Pablo Escobar, the problem of drug trafficking wasn't solved at all. So, okay, so let's talk in a cold manner about politics here in Colombia. What does it mean that Gaviria is now creating an alliance with Gustavo Petro? What could this mean? Because actually it is quite possible that Cesar Gaviria eventually becomes a new member of the Pacto Histórico, which will be quite unexpected, which will be quite incredible. But right now, this is clearly under the possibility. So what will this mean? This means that Gustavo Petro will get many more votes in the legislative and, of course, in the presidential elections, given the fact that Cesar Gaviria still has a lot of influence on his party, El Partido Liberal, the Liberal Party of Colombia. He has a pretty strong presence and a strong influence on this particular party. So the possibility that Cesar Gaviria eventually becomes a member of the Pacto Histórico will only mean that a lot of votes of the Liberal Party, which is one of the main parties in the history of Colombia, along with the Conservative Party, this party, the Liberal Party, El Partido Liberal, will provide many votes to the Pacto Histórico, for the Pacto Histórico, and for Gustavo Petro. So this could represent a move that could definitely decide the presidential election here in Colombia. Reporting from Medellin, Colombia, Luis Orozco, Newsweek.